Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome to a brand new show on the channel, Orb, on the movements of the Earth. This is a show that I was made aware of last year, pretty much when it was first announced. The thing that caught my attention was that this was a Madhouse production, and this was about the time after they released Freerun, and then they announced this, and I'm like, okay, Madhouse is coming back? Are they back? Are we back? And then I read about like the brief idea behind the show, or at least the original, the manga. So I do know the rough idea about what this show is. We're gonna be talking about heliocentrism, baby. We're gonna be talking about how the Earth is actually rotating the sun. We are set in a fictional Poland, or a fictional, at least in a fictional Europe. Maybe it's not fictional, I don't know, but what I've heard is that it's fictional, but it's very, it's very on the nose on like where we are exactly. It's almost fictional history to a degree, and I am super excited, especially after the show's release like a couple of months ago, and it's just been getting better and better in terms of like reviews and ratings. Like, people are talking about this show. People I know are talking about this show. People who I trust their opinions of are talking about this show. Even people who I don't trust their opinions are also talking about this show, and they are all loving it. So I am very excited for this. Yeah, it'll be great to I mean the last anime that I've done for the channel is Jujutsu Kaisen, which was a great show in its own regards, but it's always fun to finally watch another show, another anime that you could say is a lot more grounded to a degree, a lot more serious. I believe this was aimed for a seinen audience and not a shonen audience, but yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super down for this. So thank you all so much. If you are tuning in for the first time and checking this out, I do reactions to a bunch of shows, movies, every now and again, from time to time, and you can find early access and full uncuts and all the stuff on the Patreon. Links in the description below. Or if you just want to watch like the full timer-based version, there's also a link to that in the description, so check that out as well if you do want to watch like the full thing. Otherwise, enjoy the highlighted version, and yeah, let me know in the comments what you all think about these episodes. Would love to read some of your comments, some of your discussions. No spoilers, obviously. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Oh, whoa. Okay. Okay. Somewhere in the kingdom of P. I am also fully aware of the dangers of presenting something that is, not of the established quo. The idea that the Earth rotates around the sun, as far as I remember of history, was not really a good perspective. At the time, nobody was really vibing with it. So it would be interesting to see, again, like how this show is gonna explore that, which I'm pretty sure it... Whoa. Nails. Oh, look at this presentation though. Oh, that sound effect? Oh wow, the blood on his shirt there. Conviction. Oh.
めぐりさん68枚。爪って生えてきますから。
Oh,
さあみんな、
Okay.
問題だ。
that
宇宙の中心には何があるでしょう。
that was an introduction.
よし、ラファウ。
はい。
Rafal.
宇宙の中心はもちろん地球です。アリストテレス曰く、
Oh,
重い物体は下に落ちる。
Aristotle is an actual person in this world.
なんとこの度ラファウが大学に行くことになった。
Oh,
さらに12歳で進学とはもうなんかやばいので
age 12.
祝福しよう。
Quite a feat.
だからその恩を少しでも返せるように信者の役に立つ学問を選びたいです。
I wonder how much of this is he bullshitting.
世界ちょれー。
He's bullshitting.
大変申し訳ないが、この世はバカばっかだ。
This music, though. I need to check who's making the music. Is it Kensuke Ushio?
賢者。そんなそんな。手よりむしろ神。あ、
Don't.
人は神にはなれません。
Uh-oh.
発言を撤回してください。
Things just got a lot serious in that moment.
バカ。言っちゃいけないことがあるだろ
それは製氷か。
う。はい。昨日は初めて6等星まで観測できて興奮しました。
ではそれをやめろ。
Oh.
これからはすべての時間を進学に割くんだ。天文はやめろ。
Right.
フベルトの身柄を引き取ってほしい。
フベルトさんって異端者として捕まっていたんですよね。
Ah, the guy that we saw before.
Huh?
Oh, what a shot. The use of colors, specifically. Oh, look at this.
どんなに背伸びしたって、人間は近づけない。
Mhm.
フベルトさん、元学者で異
Oh,
端者。
somebody's being burned.
一体どんな人なんだ？
Yeah. Burn at the stake.
噂をすれば。
Oh, wow. That dude is still alive. So he's there. Holding the nails there, I saw that. Holding a bag of nails.
うわ、でかっ。
Not the person that we saw before. That person's probably the one who was burning at the stake then. Oh, look at the scars on his mouth.
好かれようと作り笑顔なんてしなくていいぞ。
Oh, saw right through him.
星を見るんだろう。アストロラーベを持ち歩くなんて。
あ、いや、これは
An astrolabe? Astrolabe?
大学では進学を。
不純だな。
Again, saw right through him. Hubert knows. Hubert probably sees himself in him, in Rafal.
もう研究はやめたのですよね。
私は学者だ。誰に何を言われても研究を捨てるつもりはない。
は？改心していないのですか？
The change in music.
それは今から君を脅迫するからだ。
Oh, okay. Okay.
しかし私は目が弱ってしまった。
I can see
だ
that.
から君を利用する。
Whoa.
はい、やります。めっちゃやります。
いつもどこで観測している？
At his home?
南東の
ああ
丘ですが。
Okay.
もっといい観測地がある。
Ah.
すごい。来てよかった。
そうだろう。
Oh,
こ
wow.
こは高度も高く視界も開けてるし、あの岩と山の位置がオリオンのベルトと似通っているのも気に入っている。
Okay.
はあ。
Dude, I got goosebumps. They're just looking at the sky. I got goosebumps. Nice detail on the nails.
地球が中心で、すべての天体はその周りを複雑に回っています。
ではそれを書いてみろ。
Draw it for me and I will prove you wrong.
難解ですが、このくらい1000年以上前にプトレマイオスが真理を見つけてる。まあ、常識的に考えても地球は特別なので。
この真理は美しいか？ この
Fascinating.
宇宙は美しいか。
Fascinating.
まあ少し煩雑すぎる気はします。そういう観点から言えばあまり美しくはない。
I cannot describe how I am getting goosebumps just from this dialogue, but this is so good.
複雑でもあの理屈の精度は高い。
もし太陽も星も動かなかったら、
じゃあ今まさに空を動いているのは何なんです？
地球だ。
地球ってそんなわけ。
It makes sense. He realizes that it makes perfect sense.
毎日朝が来るのは地球が自らの軸を回る自転をしているからだ。さらに季節が変わるのは地球が太陽を軸として回る公転をしているからだ。
This is such a beautiful presentation, by the way.
宇宙は一つの秩序に統合され、常識は覆り、
This music
境
too.
界は激怒し、地動説とでも呼ぼうか。
Oh my god, and the title drop as well. Alright, what a first episode. Those final moments, really, really well done. I'm pretty sure this is the opening song that is currently playing. I want to quickly check the staff list for this first. It is Kensuke Show. Okay. Alright, that was the first episode of Orb on the Movements of the Earth. What a first episode. Definitely got me hooked. I mean, the premise itself is already a fascinating thing to cover, especially in the medium of anime of all things, but it's a very interesting concept considering that this is pretty much a historical anime to a degree, but the anime isn't really specifically set in any historical nation, but it is very loosely based on Poland, right? The Kingdom of P, it's a very small detail, but I was always wondering in the back of my mind, like, why can't they just call it Poland if they're gonna be talking about like actual historical references of the past, like Aristotle, Ptolemy, for example, like, and a bunch more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just one detail that I'm like, why? But it doesn't really matter why. But at the same time, I'm also wondering and thinking, okay, are we actually going to be seeing actual historical characters throughout the show, or at least characters that are based on historical characters? You know, at this point, I'm like, is Hubert actually an actual character, or a character that is loosely based on a real life person, for example? You know, I'm currently like watching Shogun, the live great show about, you know, about Japanese history. But that show, while it is set in history, it is also using fictional characters that are in place of actual characters. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but beyond that tiny little bit of tangent here, what a great first episode, I will say. That final few minutes, beautifully done. I think it was really well directed. It gives off this sense of wonder, this magical element, even though it is said in reality, like there is no magical element, but the thought, the idea for these characters at the time, like the idea that the Earth is rotating around the sun, right, and that we are not at the center of the universe, and everything that we know as scientific fact today is fantasy to them. And that is like the coolest part to me about this episode, and I guess what is to come in the future, because I got goosebumps. You know, I got chills when Hubert was basically telling Rafal, like, no, your idea of the Earth being at the center of the universe is wrong, and I'm gonna tell you why, right? I mean, we know as an audience, like, we know like the truth. We know how it is, but they don't, and that makes this whole dynamic interesting for me as a viewer to see the show. Right? Um, it's always fun. Like going back to like what I was talking about, like how this is pretty much a historical anime. Much like if we are watching a biography, a film, TV show, what have you, a story that is talking about a past historical event. We know what's gonna happen at the end because we have seen the history books, right? We know what's gonna happen. You watch Oppenheimer, you know what's gonna happen at the end, right? But it's the matter of experiencing how the characters figure it out for the first time. That is where the magic happens, and here, that is where the magic lies. And this is gonna be really fun. This is gonna be really interesting, and I cannot wait to see more. Um, Speaking of characters, one character that is currently probably more interesting to me isn't really Rafal or Hubert, but it's actually the I don't think they've given him a name, but it's the guy, the torturer, essentially, because he is the first character that we meet in the show. It's not Rafal, it's not Hubert, it's him. He was the first person that we saw in the show, right? He was torturing somebody. And then the whole thing, the whole bit with the nails and such, goosebumps. That is how you sell a villain immediately. Like, I feel that this guy is a serious threat, right? He is everything that is going to be against us, or at least our main characters, right? And I mean, this also goes to, depictions of the church and depictions of religion in general in fiction. It's a common trope, in fiction, in stories, where any form of religious presentation, or any religious um any form of religious sects and whatever, are usually portrayed as kind of like the bad guy, or not necessarily a bad guy, but more of a showcasing that they are not exactly the good guys as they are usually preaching about. It's always a controversial it's always a controversial state where, it is what it is, but this is different, because this is based on on historical facts, right? And historically speaking, the church not really fond of the whole idea that we are not special. They're not, kind of takes a long while, a few hundred years, until they realize and they accept the idea that we are rotating around the sun. And a lot of other ideas about the Earth and the universe in general, like how we are actually, the Earth is like billions of years old and not just 1,000 years old, and whatever. But it'll be interesting to see how this anime is going to be depicting the church. Nonetheless, is what I'm trying to say. I'm very keen to see how the church is going to be depicted as the bad guys, as the villains, and maybe there's going to be more layers to it. Like, here's the thing, right? They can explore more of that concept, maybe explore more of the idea of the church finally accepting the fact that their old principles are wrong, and that the fact that we are rotating around the sun and we are not at the center of the universe is right. Maybe they're gonna show that, maybe not. Either way, the fact that we are in this setting and we are already setting up the players, setting up the factions, setting up all of these characters that we are going to be following, opens the door to a lot of potential nuances throughout the journey, and that is going to be really fun. I mean, Rafal himself, right? You get the impression, you get the idea that you could say that his faith in the church, in his own religion, well, not necessarily his own religion, but his faith in what the church stands for in regards to astronomy, you get that he is not fully on board with that. He's an astronomer. He's born to be an astronomer. Him going to university to study theology, to me feels more like, well, I'm forced to do that because society deems that I need to do that. You know, like, I can't go the other direction, even though the other direction is my passion, because my passion will lead me to be burned alive at the stake. Which, that is also another, point of worry. Like, we are being hunted down now, basically, right? The fact that if Rafal is going to be going down this path, studying more astronomy, studying the stars, and if he is going to be trying to, let's say, continue on Hubert's research, because Hubert is old, he is like old, and Hubert said it himself, right? He's been caught twice. If he gets caught again, there's no, it's the stake for him. It's straight to the gallows, right? That's it. He's gonna get burned. He's gonna get hanged. He's gonna get executed, right? Rafal, on the other hand, he's still a child, so there's still a chance for him, to continue on his work, but it is going to be a dangerous path. It's a dangerous path because he is going to be surrounded by everyone who is against his own ideas. Everyone who is against his own worldview. A worldview that is the truth, right? A worldview that is the reality of the world. And that is what makes this whole premise interesting to me, right? We are dealing with a lot of themes, a lot of topics, a lot of ideas. What is the truth and what is not the truth, and why what people seem and deem to be the truth is not really the truth. We can talk more about this. We can talk a lot more about this. There's so much potential in this. But yeah, I'm gonna hold on to that thought until like much later in the series for the episodes to come, because I'm sure we're gonna be dealing with a lot more to that. We've only just begun, but so far, beautiful presentation of the episode. Obviously, look, Madhouse production, I was not expecting this to be like a Freerun level production, if you get what I'm saying. Like, Freerun was just another tier of its own. This feels more like a standard show, but I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that this is a standard Madhouse show, and that is already good enough for me, and I'm kind of not really speaking about the show, but more speaking about like the anime industry in general. But I want Madhouse to come back, basically. Madhouse has always been kind of behind all of the other studios in these past couple of years. I mean, they've made some really good shows, like I love Sonny Boy, but never, but Sonny Boy never really got, that popular mainstream appeal, compared to some of Madhouse's other, or compared to some other studios and their outings, like Studio Mappa, for example, and a bunch of other studios, even Studio Trigger, and many, many more, right? Madhouse has always been on this like slow decline in I guess in the late in early 2020s and the late 2010s. But recently, they've been putting out bangers. Freerun, and now this. I'm just hoping, and I am praying. I'm really hoping that with this show, and of course they're working on Freerun season 2. I'm just hoping that Madhouse can actually come back and make more bangers, make more good shows. They were the goats back then, and it's always nice. It's always nice watching this. Gives me, it gives me like this good feeling in my heart that I don't want this studio to end. I don't want this studio to close. I want them to continue making good stuff, and they are making good stuff. So yeah, really exciting stuff. I cannot wait to see more. I cannot wait to see where our journey is gonna take us. This is a 2-core show. This is like 23, 24 episodes. So we're in for quite an adventure. And of course, we haven't seen most of our characters. I have seen the poster, like Rafal is right in the middle. We have a lot of other characters on his back that we have not seen yet. Cannot wait to meet them. But yeah, it's a very exciting adventure. It's a very exciting story that we are about to witness. A very dangerous one, that is.
いや、普通に間違ってると思う。
Sure. The initial doubt.
例えば地球が動いているなら、なぜジャンプしても同じ位置に着地するんです？
Oh, we're gonna be learning a lot. Well, more like the characters are gonna be learning a lot. We know.
明日はもう来たくない。
そうか。では。
Hubert is very confident in Rafal, and I love that.
円が静止して地球が動く。それも自転と公転の2種類も。
Yeah, the fact that he is thinking about it. Whoa. Beautiful way of conveying that through the visuals. That is fantastic. Yeah, the ding.
ひっくり返る。
Yep.
僕が地球で山が太陽なら、
Yes, go on.
観測者が動くなら、静止した対象も動いて見える。いや、100歩譲って。
This is amazing. This is amazing.
こんなのふざけた異端思想だ。
Blasphemy.
間違ったデタラメだ。それどころか捕まる危険もある。
It's plain wrong, and yet it all makes sense.
あんな巨大な点が
Oh,
一つの
goosebumps. Beautiful direction here.
合理的に動いてしまったら。
Oh, okay. Opening time. Oh, beautiful sequence of events here. Back tomorrow.
さらに精度が上がっているな。
フベルトさんはなぜ危険を冒して天国を捨ててまでこんなことをしてるんです？
Hmm.
逆だ。神を信じるからやるのだ。
Sure.
だが、怖くない人生などその本質を書く。
Hmm.
観測は今日で終わりだ。
では僕は明日から何を？
You're on your own.
さあな、君の自由だ。
Wow, free to choose.
天文をやれ。自分のために。これは提案だ。
Just a suggestion, but yeah. Rafal's fate is in his own hands now. He knows the danger of it. So the question is, are you gonna pursue it? Uh-oh.
おーい。
Uh-oh.
やあ、君がラファウ君。私は異端審問官のノバクだ。
Novak.
そんでさ、何これ？
Oh god.
君の本棚から見つかって、まだ
What is music?
言ってないけど、
Terrifying. Such an intense scene. Beautifully done. Oh, Hubert got his back. Okay. Oh, he's taking the blame.
おういやいや、そうでしたか。でもフベルトさん、冷静になってくださいよ。
やり残したことは？
たった今やったよ。
Huh. Wow. Wow. Beautiful shot. Passing the
焼かれて
torch.
死んだ。
Ugh. Yeah, we don't need to see that. Whoa.
これは手紙。
Addressed to you.
この手紙を読んでいる。
Or to anyone, I guess.
ぶしつけな前置きで申し訳ないが、私はあなたが誰だか知らない。
Wow. Wow. It just so happens that Hubert got assigned to Rafal. The coincidence.
あなたを全面的に信頼して、私のやり残したことを頼みたい。
Wow.
地動説はおそらく証明できない。不確定要素が多すぎる。
Oh, wow, beautiful.
勘よりずっと強い。
Wow.
あなたならやれる。
My work is now obsolete because you know more than I do. That's basically what he says.
しょうがないよな。フベルトさんの言う通り。僕の理屈は書物を燃やした。燃やす理屈なんかより、僕の直感は指導説を信じたい。あ、それと僕は天文を学びます。
Whoa.
先頭
I
に
mean,
僕が立ってた。
it's your last day. Might as well just say it out, you know?
困った時は大人を頼れば。家族を大切にな。
Novak being portrayed as a
そろそろ
really kind-hearted person.
何をするつもりですか？私には子供が。
本当ですか。実は私にも娘が。ほらこれ娘からの手紙、いつも持ち歩いてるんですよ。なんだってする。
ただい
Oh no.
じゃあ君ここの子だったの。私は家族と夕飯だ。
審問官は独身のはずじゃ。知らないのか。ノバクさんは出家せず在族でやってる。
Ah.
よく知らないが
Okay.
傭兵らしいぞ。
傭兵、そんな血に汚れた手で生殖を考えられない。
A mercenary turned inquisitor.
司教様にも訳があるんだろう。
Novak's a very interesting character. I
そんな冗談だろ。
kind of love him as a villain.
権を撤回しない限り、私はこの入学許可書にサインしないぞ。
But Tatsuki's also gonna probably call on Novak if this continues, which it will continue.
了解です。
ね
宣言します。天文は二度としません。僕がアホでした。嬉しい。それにしても、父さんはあれほど天文を毛嫌いしているのに、
Why does he have these many
どう
books?
してこの家にはこんなに
Good
資料
question.
があるんだろう。
Oh. Oh. Alright, I'll briefly talk about episode 2 before I continue with episode 3, but a really fantastic episode. I think it's it's a good continuation of the first episode. I love the first half of this episode when we were talking with Hubert again, continuing from the previous episode where that ended. And yeah, it's just a really good scene. I love the quote that Hubert gave to Rafal, that a wrong answer is not a meaningless one. I feel like that is going to be one of the driving force of the entire series. If I'm being honest, yeah, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's a really, really core, a core central theme. When we are trying to discover something new, when we are trying to basically do the impossible, right? We're trying to prove something that is universally brushed off, that is well, not just brushed off, that is illegal, essentially, right? Like this idea, right? Heliocentrism in general, especially during this time, right? But it's always a matter of like, well, what can they do with the limited technology and the limited knowledge that they have in this era, right? I mean, and that's like the fun part, right? That's the beauty of it, where we're going to be following these characters. They're going to be trying to prove their very best to the world, right? A believable enough thesis that everyone can agree upon, that everyone can can think and say, oh yeah, that completely makes sense to the common people, right? Not just to Rafal, not just to everybody else with, let's just say, with a more uh, a brighter mind, if you will, but like to the common folk, right? It's trying to find the ways to convince people, right? And that is a really tough answer, right? And even, like even looking at Rafal himself, right, throughout this entire episode, like even he was like trying his very best to, trying to find reason, trying to find the logic behind this idea, right, that he inevitably believes in, right? But even then, we're still like in the early stages, if you will, like his research is only just beginning, right? It's going to take a lot more to come, a lot more to do. There's going to be a lot of stumbling along the way. There's going to be a lot of things that he's going to get wrong, but there's going to be a lot of things that he's going to get right. And just because some of those things that he got was wrong doesn't mean that that's it, it's over. You never solve the equation, basically, right? Try again. And that, I guess that's what it means, like that's why it's not meaningless. It's a really good quote. It's just a really good quote in general. I do love that. I think that Hubert, when he said like, yeah, I found a way to complete my work, and it's like the final time, it does feel like Hubert knows exactly what is gonna happen, as if he knows that that Novak or Patetsky has come for him. That's why he was in a rush, in a hurry, or that's why he was confident in in saying what he said to Rafal. But either way, his work is not going to be, it's not going to be in vain. Rafal is going to be continuing it. Some interesting stuff in the second half. We got focused a bit on Novak just for a little bit. Holding off on my thoughts on Novak until much later, but they are setting him up to be somebody really interesting, to say the least. The books that Patetsky had in his like library, in like the attic or whatever, that is also very interesting. Like, why does he have those things? Why does he have those books? Maybe Patetsky is also a person who used to be like Rafal, and he's just looking out for him. Maybe, right? Who knows? Maybe Father Patetsky is actually someone of the same mind as Rafal, or someone who, well, used to be like Rafal, but then ended up, realizing the dangers of having these thoughts, especially with the Inquisitors having, with Novak and all. So maybe this is actually a situation where Patetsky is actually just protecting Rafal from, being sent to the gallows or being burned alive. Because it does raise questions, right? Like, why do you have these books to begin with? But we'll see where that goes. I guess the last thing that I do find to be very interesting in this episode, Rafal himself, and I guess the future for him specifically, because he said it himself, this may take 30 or 40 years for him to complete. He's still a very young lad, and as we just saw in this episode, right, we see the passing of the torch. We see Hubert giving Rafal basically his life's work, well, kind of burning it, but you know what? You know exactly what he means, right? Eventually, his work is going to be obsolete because it's going to be replaced by Rafal, who already understands the whole situation. The fact that Rafal is only like 12 years old, like he is still a very young child. The fact that this child pretty much understands the life work of Hubert, that is over 70, 80 years old. Like, he's very old. Let's just put it that way. The fact that this young child is already on the same level, more or less, give or take, or at least has the same understanding or the same belief as this, as Hubert, that puts Hubert at ease, because he knows that the next generation is going to achieve what Hubert could not, and they will have a lot more time, right? And it also got me thinking, like, okay, well, where can this series go from now? I mean, if Rafal does continue on this work, this dangerous work, especially, with the Inquisitors and the Church and everything, always going to be looking out for him, and keeping a close watch, right? We could see a potential that Rafal is going to hand over his work to the next generation. Like, who knows? I mean, we saw a lot of characters in the opening, obviously. They may as well just be characters from the next generation and the generation after that, right? Anything can happen here, because 30 or 40 years is going to be a long time, and I don't think Rafal is going to immediately, I don't think he's going to immediately solve the complete equation in like 20 episodes. But yeah, that's my very brief initial impressions of the second episode. Let's jump straight into the third episode. Time.
そろそろ父さんの帰りか。さて、下書きは燃やした。清書した資料はこの中へ。
Nice.
何を燃やしたんだ？
No, one of them is not burned.
これはまさか。
That's, oh my god, that is such a coincidence.
やはり一筋縄ではいかないな。
Shit. Novak?
これじゃあまだ天動説の方が正確。
ああ。
Novak.
君賢いんだって。
Oh, look at this lighting.
その年で大学行くとか。
これは自戒です。異端への怒りと警戒を忘れないようにするためです。
そうか。彼が研究していた内容は知っているかい？
Oh, this music.
一応確認だけするが。
This music is
本当に
bone
関わって
chilling.
い
I
ない
love it.
と神に誓えるか？
もちろん誓います。
Whoa.
僕は今の宇宙を信じています。ビビった。
I feel like Novak. Oh.
Huh?
Oh yeah.
まさか父さんに見つかっ。計算が修正されてる。
私は何も知らん。
Whoa. Oh. Father Potetsky. But as I was saying, I feel like Novak would know a liar when he sees one. Would know a heretic if he sees one, and I feel like he knows somehow. I love that visual so much. The necklace falling down, it transitions into an eye and transitions into the earth. The truth is in the eye of the beholder. I want to know about you. You have an eye patch. I want to know about you.
私はなんてこと。あの計算を修正するなど。
Why indeed?
もしこれがバレたら。
Uh-huh. Speak of the devil.
どうも。
Jesus. How does he know?
フベルトさんってあなたの教え子だったんでしょ？
山ほどいる教え子の一人に過ぎない。特別な思いはありません。
あなたに異端の前科があって、
Oh.
それがフベルトと同じ地動説。
Oh, okay, okay, here we go, here we go.
フベルトとは研究の話なんてしていない。
Alright, so I was right.
おそらくフベルトは勝手にあなたの過去の研究を見たんでしょう。人目の異端だけは避けたいんでしょう。二度も配信する輩には骨まで悪魔が取り付いちまってる。
Oh, once again. Great direction.
ズバリ無になる。記憶も経験も意識も魂も死後の世界も全部無だ。私はそんな運命はごめん。
The backlight on Novak is really well done.
あんたの子供異端研究してるだろう。図星ですか？
Novak. Wow.
証拠があるんですか？
いえ、今はまだ。あなたは終わりだ。なんか知ってるなら早めに密告した方がいいですよ。
there's that conflict.
本当に初犯は死なずに済むんですよね。
ええ、もちろん。
Liar.
地動説は証明できると思うか。
Whoa.
はい。
詳しいことは明日話そう。
A lot to think about. It's a matter of life and death.
おはよ
すまない、ラファウ。
う。では、行こうか。
Okay.
となった。
Shit.
明日から正式に拷問が始まる。回すとこの通り、梨が開く。
The fact that it still has blood stains.
頬は下げて。
Jesus.
この世で最も肝心な
I feel like Rafal's punishment is going to be more severe
諦めるかだ。君は賢いんだ。
because he is associated with Hubert. Like, it's not that Rafal worked alone, but because Novak obviously knows that there is a connection to Hubert, then he can use that as a means or as a reason to, you know, increase the punishment.
今までなんとかなってきた。この局面も多分なんとかなるだろう。宣言しても積んでない。資料を焼いても積んでない。
Oh god, they are waving a lot of red flags here. A lot of death flags. I mean,
なぜ僕はこんなことをしてるんだ。
crazy thing is I can totally see them killing off Rafal.
世界はずっとちょろいはずで。
Ah,
なぜ僕はこんなことを。でもなぜだ。今は
Oh,
あの
beautiful
頃より
shot.
はっきりと空が
oh,
よく見える。
beautiful.
我々教会側は被告に改心の宣言および関係資料の開示と文書を要求している。
Rafal's not gonna do it.
肝心なのは何を諦めるかだ。正解を選べ。言葉では何とでも言える。
He's been lying to them this entire time. I feel like this is gonna be the first time that he's actually gonna be telling the truth. He's gonna throw it away.
宣言します。僕は
Oh,
地
rip
動
it.
説を信じてます。囚人でもこんなにいいものが飲めるんですね。
拷問前日に特別に与えるものだよ。
It's your last supper, baby.
一緒に飲みませんか。
なぜこんな台無しにした。無駄だ。拷問を甘く見るな。どうせ明日の昼には宝のありかを吐くさ。
あなた方が相手にしてるのは僕じゃない。異端者でもない。ある種の想像力であり、好奇心であり、
Yeah.
筆境。
The truth
それは
itself,
知
yeah.
性だ。
この選択は君の未来にとって正解だと思うのか。
そりゃ不正解でしょ。でも不正解は無意味を意味しません。
There it is.
消し飲みの効果は知ってますか。それと毒物を混ぜると、まあ簡単に言うと苦しまずに死ねる。で、さっきそれをコップに入れました。
That's what. Okay.
飲んだのは僕です。
はは嘘だろ。
This is a side of Novak that we have not seen yet.
その選択は教えに反してる。
Wow.
どこまで教会をコケにするんだ。死の先に恐ろしい運命が待ってるぞ。
死の先なんか
Such
誰も知りま
defiance.
せんよ。我々のあるところに死はない。死のあるところに我々は
And
ない。
yeah,
なの2000年近くも前の愚かな異教徒の言葉だろ。
philosophers.
奴らには絶対死も救いもない。
This is such a good scene.
感動は寿命の長さより大切なものだと思う。
Whoa.
僕の命に変えてでも
Whoa.
この感動を生き残らせる。
動機じゃない。わけもわからんも
お
の
ー
に熱中して命すら投げる。そんな状態を
Beautiful.
でもそんなのを愛とも言えそうです。
Wow. Okay! And it passes down to whoever this is. Who the fuck are you? Einar from Vinland Saga? Okay. Note. Okay. Okay. This is a generational anime. Literally speaking, this is an anime that is going to be spanning multiple generations. Okay. Man, that scene with Novak and Rafal is such a good scene. It's such a good scene. Okay. Episode 3 of Orb on the movements of the Earth. And what an episode this was. What a bold direction to the story as well. I mean, whew. I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase. Rafal and his fate was, yeah. It was something that, as the episode went on, the idea or the possibility of it becomes more and more likely. And honestly, I am glad that when it did actually happen, the show very much so did not show it to us. And instead, what the show actually did show is actually the movements of the Earth. And I thought that was really beautiful. The fact that they are not showing, Rafal being burned alive, a child being burned alive, like, come on. But instead showing, the passage of time, while also in that sense showcasing how the Earth is rotating, right, as the moon is also moving around the Earth as well, right, along with the stars and everything. I thought that was really beautiful. I thought that was a really, really beautiful way to portray what it is that Rafal believed in his final moments. But really, what I really want to talk about is the conversation between Rafal and Nuvak, because I find that to be one of, if not the best scene of the series thus far. We're only 3 episodes in, I know. We still got a long ways to go. We still have like 20 episodes left. Over 20. But that scene, where Rafal is not in a way accepting his defeat, but rather he is accepting the truth of reality. And he is basically spitting it on Novak's face, right? It's such an incredibly well directed scene, such a well done scene conceptually as well, because Novak throughout this, for these 3 episodes has always been portrayed as this very intense character, this character that is always bringing in death, the Inquisitor himself, someone who seemingly lacks empathy for the heretics, and every scene with Novak before that, before this scene, has always been very intenseful, and it's always been very well directed, very well executed. Even earlier on in this episode, when Novak was talking to Rafal, and then when Novak is talking to Father Potetsky, it's all so deliberately well done to the point where you do feel horror. You feel terrified at his presence alone, the way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he's just tapping his cup of water, his cup of wine, whatever it is. it's so well done. It's so well done at establishing that he is a force to be reckoned with, that he is the devil. Ironic, I know. But it's when all of that just comes crashing and all of that is just flipped, when Rafal was the one who essentially offered him a drink, like my final, this is going to be the last time I'm going to be drinking, might as well, I want to talk to you. And it's how Rafal immediately in that moment became the master of the scene. He is the one who is taking control of the scene. It's no longer Novak, right? He's not in control. Rafal is. And it clearly shows when Rafal keeps talking to him, right? Talking about his inspiration, when he's just reciting these famous quotes from these famous philosophers, right? From the past, which, thinking about, like the passage of time itself, it is kind of insane, like we right now look at, these characters in the show. They're fictional, obviously, but based on like the setting of the show and where it's kind of taking inspiration from, we see them as like these past legends, right? And it's always just insane to me every time I look at these types of shows, these historical shows, and when they are referencing, people like Socrates, and yeah. Yeah, they're also ancient. They're also old. We're gonna be old as well. We're gonna be ancient in like the next 1,000 years. It's crazy to think about, but that entire moment is so beautifully well done. Fantastic visuals as well, with the moon and everything, with the light shining upon him. How Rafal feels so free, even though he is shackled and in prison. Gonna take a paraphrasing a quote from Professor Heimerdinger from Arcane, but the mind works in very mysterious ways, where the physical body is confined and yet the mind is free. That is basically what Rafal is feeling right now. He is locked up. He is, in a confined space. He's about to be burned alive, and yet he is totally, completely free. He's able to think whatever he wants, right? It's the freedom of the mind. It's the freedom of his belief, and that freedom is the truth, and that is the thing that he longs for, and he believes in it up until the very end. And this belief, this this idea that he latches upon, the truth that we know is absolute facts, shook Novak to his core. Like, Novak was so... I feel like Novak, at the end of that, felt something. He absolutely felt something. The moment when Rafal talks about like inspiration and how he plans on to live as inspiration for other people, and to for him to live on, essentially, when the church, when they are talking about like the afterlife, and how, when you're burned alive, then there is no afterlife for you, or so they say. Rafal lives on in a different way, in a different concept, if you will. But yeah, his words, his words, and specifically Novak's own reaction to it. I really hope that we get to see more Novak. I really do. Because 10-year time skip, I don't know if Novak's still alive at this point. 10 years is quite a long, it's quite a long time for somebody to, a lot of things can happen in 10 years. Novak could actually just die randomly from, I don't know, natural causes. Maybe I don't know, like anything can happen, right? We might see an older Novak, and right now, or maybe not. And if we do see Novak again, I want to see how much Novak has changed. Like how much that that Rafal's word kind of mean to Novak. Like how much did it actually change his perspective? And not to say that Novak immediately now just suddenly believes in heliocentrism. No, I mean more like how Novak sees the heretics, and how, I guess, appreciate is like the word that it's like the best word that I can think of. Like how he appreciates, I guess, his victims, which even that itself is kind of a crazy thing to think about. But before this, Novak always sees his victims as like, oh yeah, they're heretics. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in the ways of the church. Then whatever, But now we might see something different. We might see a different Novak, or maybe not. Maybe he becomes more ruthless than ever. Who knows, right? But something to keep in mind, because I do find Novak to be a very interesting character. It would be kind of a shame to not focus on Novak anymore. But if you're not focusing on him, then I guess I can understand why, if we are going to be doing this generation by generation. And we might actually see, and even that, we might actually see the successor for Novak, right? If we are going to be doing, as I said, generation by generation, which is kind of exactly what they're doing, right? 10 years now, we might see Novak's apprentice, a new Novak, if you will, and how they are going to be handling things. But speaking of the new generation, these two characters that we saw at the end, it doesn't feel like these characters are actually friendly to each other. One of them is pointing a sword to the other, so there is that. One of them also has bruises, I believe, or at least their face is kind of fucked up. So, what happened between them, I don't know, but definitely they probably got beaten up by the church, probably, right? They're probably following the same. Maybe they're maybe one of them is actually like Rafal's friend from the past, right? Who knows, right? Anything can happen here. 10 years is a long time. But also, what is also very interesting to me is one of them has the necklace. How did they get the necklace? Right? How indeed? I'm skimming through the episode again, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, Rafal isn't wearing the necklace throughout the trial and throughout him in, I guess, in custody. Last time we see the necklace was here. When he's writing the note that basically says Earth. I might have missed more. Probably because I was just skimming the episode. We might have actually seen more, but this is probably the last time that we saw the necklace. So, Father Patetsky, maybe. Speaking of Father Patetsky, let's talk about him, shall we? Interesting fellow. I talked about him in the second episode discussion just for a little bit. I was right. So, Father Patetsky absolutely used to be a believer of heliocentrism, used to work with Hubert. In fact, Hubert was Patetsky's like student, which that itself interesting. But Patetsky does give off this, he does give off this type of character who used to believe in one thing. Now not that he doesn't believe it now, it's just that he needs to lie to himself into believing the church, into believing what society wants him to believe, because it's all about survival, right? He cares more about the survival of himself as opposed to discovering the truth or believing in the truth that will lead him to certain death. And I feel like I mean, it's the reason why it's the reason why he asked Rafal to begin with, right? Do you believe that you can solve heliocentrism? And Rafal says yes, which is why Potetsky just said, okay, go to bed. I'll think about this, you know. And he took a long while to think about it. You know, he thought about it like all night. Eventually went to, you know, he went to Novak, but one, he cares about himself more, which is why he did that, right? He, you know, Novak's word pretty much got into him, right? He wants to save his skin, therefore he ratted Rafal out. But it's also because Novak actually believed or wants to believe that Rafal is going to recant and the punishment is not going to be severe, right? That was his hope. That was his belief. Well, it turns out it's not. That's not what happened. That's not the case. Rafal's belief in heliocentrism is way more powerful than any of us could actually, you know, can actually comprehend and actually believe in, which is fantastic, which is great for him. But yeah, I don't know what else to say actually, because most of these characters that I'm discussing, we may not actually see them again in the next episode. I might start episode 4 and we're just introduced to new characters. Like, we're not going to be seeing Potetsky again. We're never going to be seeing Novak again. Like, we might actually just not see these characters again, and we're just following new sets of characters. I don't know, which is why I'm like, well, I guess there's nothing else for me to say when it comes to the characters. They're all well done for these 3 episodes, and I think that's like all that matters. Direction and especially the music as well. I've talked about the music in the first episode. I want to say it again for these 2 set of episodes. Beautifully well done. I find the music to be so well put together. Kensuke Uchiha, of course, never disappoints in this regard. It's just that moment of tension building, especially during Novak's scene. Excellent. I really love that. It's great. It's fantastic. And yeah, really good episode. Really good episode of Orb on the Movements of the Earth. This has been a really good ride. Some really heartfelt moments as well. Again, that scene when Rafal was talking to Novak, I find to be really well executed, really well done, and the final moments of that was really, you know, it does hurt, but at the same time, I think it's also beautiful the way they are portraying it, the way Rafal is portraying it, and I find Rafal's own belief in what he thinks is correct, and it is correct. We know is correct. I think that's kind of like the point, right? It's the thing that enhances the experience for me, because in other shows, a character can say, no, I believe in this and I believe in that, and what they believe can totally be, you know, what they believe in may as well just be a fictional thing that is written for the show, right? Even if the fictional thing is what is right, there is still that tiny bit of disconnect from us, the audience, that okay, what they're believing is true, but it is fictional truth, if that makes sense. Here, we know it is factual truth because that is what it is, because that's just what it is, right? We know that Rafal is right. We know that because we have we have modern day knowledge, right? And I find that I find the idea that how the show is, or how the story in general is enhancing my experience of feeling something for this character, for this fictional character that believes in something that is real, real, to be very powerful. Because we have that connection, you know, because we believe in it. It's not that we believe in it. We know that it is. It's no longer a belief. It's just facts. Unless you don't believe in it. In that case, then I can't really help you with that. But anyways, that was Orb on the Movements of the Earth, episodes 2 and 3. I think I'm just gonna stop it right here. I was going to do up to episode 4, but I feel like with the end of episode 3, I feel like this is a natural stopping point. And yeah, I'll continue with episode 4 and onwards, I guess, in another day. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for watching the video, listening to me ramble about these 2 episodes. And I will see you all next time for the next set of episodes of Orb on the Movements of the Earth. Take care, everybody. Have a nice day. Peace.